Hey everybody, it's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. We are going to get started officially with our live stream to talk about truth, justice, and the American way from Supergirl Season 1 here in a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and get the stream started so everybody knows we are live. So if you want to share the link around, feel free to do so. And if you have any questions or comments for me while we kind of hang out for a few minutes, feel free to drop those in the live chat. You can also share your thoughts about the episode and what we're going to be talking about in the live chat. So if you have any thoughts or questions there, you can share them with us, and I encourage you to do that. I also want to let everybody know that if you wanted to go back and listen to the original episode that we did in Season 1 of Supergirl Radio, you can check that out. The video, the description is in the video. No, I said that wrong. The link is in the video description below this live stream. Also in that video description, I also have a link to the Lexi Alexander interview that we did back. It sounds, re-listened to it, so my memory is kind of fuzzy. I believe we recorded that before the episode came out. So we're trying not to spoil people in that interview. So it's a great interview with Lexi Alexander if you're interested in her background and what she tried to bring to the table in terms of Supergirl's fighting style and what she was trying to say about the episode and the themes and the character of Supergirl. She was a very passionate fan back then. I didn't keep up with her thoughts later on with the show, but it's a good interview if you want to go back and listen to it. So the link to the Lexi Alexander interview is in the video description below, and all of those links will be in the audio show notes of the audio version of the podcast. So if you want to go check those out, there's lots of truth, justice, in the American way available to you from Supergirl Radio. Well, I see Morgan is there. Morgan, are you ready to go?
Hello.
I wanted to pick your thoughts on this, Morgan, because I think I'm of two minds about the title of this episode, because I think back when I was originally working on this in Season 1 of Supergirl Radio, I tried to find where the comma was in Truth, Justice, and the American. And I think in my background of this live stream, I put the Oxford comma in there.
Yeah, I was about to say, you have an Oxford comma. Is it not an Oxford comma?
But I think in most places it doesn't have it, but I prefer the Oxford.
Yes.
But I think I prefer the Oxford comma. I don't know.
Me
What are your
too.
thoughts? Should we just buck the system and put it in there, whether or not that's right or not?
I think they can't stop us is the answer. Oh, it doesn't have an Oxford comma. It does now.
Well, to me, it just doesn't make any sense, because then you want to talk about all three of those things. So truth, justice, and the American way, not truth, justice, and the American way. There's a difference.
I'm always team Oxford comma. If I can make
too.
it happen, I make it happen.
Me too. So I think I don't know. I guess we'll make an executive decision after that. I think originally in our
We're in
Supergirl
charge
Radio,
here.
I think our original Supergirl Radio episode had an Oxford comma. I think because I was just I can't.
We'll just keep it consistent.
Yeah, we could be consistent.
Internally consistent.
Because I was pretty inconsistent with how I set up the live stream and all this stuff. But I think I'll go back and use the Oxford comma. I feel like that's probably the best way to go. Okay. Well, I just wanted to get cohesion across the board so that we all understood. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we will go ahead and get started here. It says Silhouetted Animator says, been a while since I caught these. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to share your thoughts and comments below. And it looks like CM Gutier has a question that we can address while we discuss the episode. So I guess we should just go ahead and get started, and we'll get into it. So we'll be right back.
Leslalar's downfall is just that eyebrow twitch that she can't help doing. Could you imagine if Hope was like, let's add that to the PowerPoint? Excuse
What
me?
year is it?
How old am I? how a podcast breaks up.
This is the last episode of Supergirl Radio. You want a Kryptonian? You got one.
Is it a movie about saving Argo? The answer to that one is no. It's called Witch for a Summer! Exclamation point. Where does she want to go? Ask her. Talk to her. Really commune with flat Supergirl.
Did we set the bar too high or too low?
I think we set the bar real medium.
You're doing an intensely adequate podcast.
Good.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Noyce, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because really?
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-el. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired on the Supergirl Radio Facebook page and the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel to go back in time. Since Morgan didn't review Supergirl episodes as a full-time co-host of Supergirl Radio until World's Finest, which aired in March of 2016, so that's coming up on 7 years ago, we are revisiting the first season to get Morgan's thoughts. This week, we will be discussing episode 14 of season 1 titled Truth, Justice, and the American Way. If you are interested in listening to Supergirl Radio's original discussion from season 1 and our interview with Lexi Alexander, who was the director of this episode, the links are in the video description below the live stream and will be in the audio podcast show notes. So lots of Truth, Justice, and the American Way content for you. So if you are interested in this episode, we have got a lot to offer you. Well, before we get into our main discussion about the episode and actually go back to 2016, before we get in the Legion Cruiser and time travel, we need to get to
the news.
So according to Deadline.com, Sheba, a 1-hour scripted drama series from Chantel Wells from Yellow Jackets, Ozzy Tesfaye from Supergirl, and Ryan Coogler's Proximity Media is being developed by Onyx Collective for Hulu. That is a lot of names and words.
And this is the second week in a row, I think, we talked about Yellow Jackets.
Listen, the Yellow Jackets takeover of this show has begun. I got really excited because I thought that Ozzy Tesfaye was going to be on Yellow Jackets, and I was like, bring them all to Yellow Jackets. But it's not going out that way. Co-created by Wells and Tesfaye and written by Wells, Sheba explores the rise to power of the first queen on the continent of Africa as she seeks to unite the nation we now know as Ethiopia, making it one of the richest, most formidable kingdoms in the world. Inspired by true events, we follow Makeda into a world of danger, deceit, and political intrigue as she is forced to step into a role that no one, including her, ever imagined as the Queen of Sheba. Wells is a Emmy-nominated writer and producer, most recently on Marvel's upcoming limited series Echo for Disney+. She's also written for Showtime's Emmy-nominated drama Yellow Jackets.
This is about to become Yellow Jackets Radio.
Yeah. For which she was also nominated for 2 Writers Guild Awards while earning her master's for writing and producing for television from Loyola Marymount University. Wells wrote an original pilot, which landed her the CBS Writing Fellowship en route to her first TV writing gig on CW's Jane the Virgin, followed by NBC's Good Girls. Tesfaye co-starred and wrote on CW's Supergirl as a ex-military psychologist, Kelly Olsen, and DC Comics superhero, The Guardian. The first Ethiopian person to ever portray a comic superhero on screen. Tesfaye previously played homicide detective Nadine Hansen in CW's Jane the Virgin. She's currently writing a pilot, The Chase, which is in development at NBC. So Ozzy Tesfaye is busy.
Lots of writing.
Lots of stuff. She's writing, she's producing, she's doing it all.
It sort of seemed like Ozzy might be playing
That's
the
kind of
character.
like I guess
Is
I
that
was
what
like
you
reading,
got?
but I was reading between the lines and was like, oh, she's gonna play. But I don't think it says anywhere in there.
Writing. Because a
'Cause
lot
it
of this
says-
sounded
okay.
like Ozzy's writing, so I'm a little confused by the news.
Because it says it's co-created by her and Wells, Chantel Wells, and it's written by Chantel Wells. So I wonder if
it doesn't say she's playing
it
the
doesn't
main
say
character,
she's
but it,
playing the main character, but she is an actress, and I don't know. I assume whenever an actress is like involved in a project, she's like gonna be in it.
I'm gonna be the star.
And like, if you have the chance to play the Queen of Sheba, I think you want to do that. Like, you know when people are like, "What are you, the Queen of Sheba?" and she could be like, "Yes, actually."
That's like when Henry Cavill's nephew or somebody, like his little nephew, like a little kid, like went to school and was like, my uncle's Superman. They were like, come on, whatever. And like, no, really, my uncle is Superman.
That's so good.
Yeah, so that's funny stuff. So I guess we'll have to wait and see where did it say? I'm trying to go back.
Hulu.
See Hulu. Okay, so
Hulu.
Sheba is going to be coming to Hulu, so we'll have to keep our eye. Maybe we'll do a Sheba pilot pod.
Oh, Sheba pilot pod. The nice thing about all of these cast members doing these different shows is that we can drop in on all different like time periods.
Yeah,
there's wells that take you to the past, and then in the past we meet the Queen of Sheba, and then at some point we're gonna get on a bus with some journalists. It's gonna be, and then Yellow Jackets, and then it all comes back eventually, as it should, to Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, so pilot pods do offer us some variety to mix it up and try to find follow the Supergirl actors in all their various new projects that they've got going on. So that's very exciting. We'll have to keep our eye out for that. Yeah, they are super busy, so it's good to see that they are finding work outside of Supergirl. So that is great. Well, Morgan, I think it's time for us to hop into the Legion cruiser. Gotta buckle up.
Before we do,
before we do that, okay,
from
yes,
Rachel, who says, speaking of the Legion, which sure, there are. Speaking of Yellow Jackets, that there are actually clips out from the Legion animated movie that's coming out soon. So
no spoilers.
I don't want to watch the clips because I want to watch the movie. So
well, that's interesting because you're more of a spoiler person, though.
Yeah. I'm the wrong audience for like exclusive clips. I'm like, I'm gonna watch it eventually. I'll see it in. If somebody comes to me and they're like, oh, I've got a juicy spoiler for like the end of the TV show you're watching, I'm like, girl, tell me. I'll have you like ruin the whole plot line, but I'm not gonna watch something I'm gonna watch in a month. It doesn't make sense.
I'm glad you have a line in this.
I have a line and it's like, I don't need to watch it twice.
So that's good to know. Well, for me, it's just try not to spoil me if at all possible. But we'll be talking about the Legion of Superheroes animated feature film. It's a feature-length film, so I guess we can call it that. So we will definitely be talking about that when it comes out because heavy focus on Supergirl with the Legion.
Yay.
So that's pretty exciting. All right. Well, I think now we should time travel.
Oh, sure.
So we gotta put the
Buckle my
seatbelts on
seatbelt.
the Legion cruiser, and we are gonna go back to February 22nd, 2016.
Whew. Every time I'm just not prepared for time travel.
I really shouldn't eat before I time travel. It's not
Not a good idea.
a good idea. Well, here is the official description of truth, justice, in the American way. Whether or not you like the Oxford comma is whether you put it after justice or not. But here is the description of truth, justice, in the American way, the 14th episode of Supergirl season 1. It says, quote, Supergirl does battle with the deadly master jailer played by actor Jeff Branson, who is hunting and executing escaped Fort Ross prisoners. And let me read that again, just to get the end of the sentence correctly. I feel like I didn't portray that correctly.
Sure.
Hunting and executing escaped Fort Ross prisoners. Also, Kat hires a second assistant, Siobhan Smythe, played by Atalia Ricci, who immediately tries to one-up Kara, and Kara and James disagree over the DEO's methods, unquote. So I guess the big thing here in this episode, we're introduced to a new villain. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on him, because he actually played a character on The Young and the Restless that I loved a lot. He played Chance, I believe, if I remember correctly. So when he came up on Supergirl, I was like, he's on another show that I'm watching. So that was very exciting for me, and he was great. He was good on The Young and the Restless, but I thought he was good in this. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are, Morgan. So what did you think about Master Jailer?
I thought he was very creepy. And he surprised me, because like in the earlier scene where it's like kind of like the usual cop show thing where they go in, they like have argument over jurisdiction. It's like, well, we had the case first. Well, I don't want your help. And I'm like, yeah, you guys need to learn to like work together. Did they not teach you this stuff in kindergarten? Share your toys. But so like it's the other cop, his partner, who like storms out, and he's so mad. And it's the jailer who's like the reasonable one, who's like, I'm gonna give you like a little hint of what we got here in this folder. He like flashes him the folder. So like I thought that was good in terms of the episode really like throwing you off. So you think, oh, that guy's bad and this guy's good. And he's like, on their team. And then later on, he's like, actually, I'm the villain. It's me. I'm the problem.
Well, don't they say that sometimes criminals, especially like murderers, will like go back to the scene of the crime?
Yes.
And they'll like that makes them excited to see like people looking over their crime scene. So I wonder if that was his weird thing.
I learned all about that by watching 15 seasons of Criminal Minds.
No, my gosh, 15 seasons.
15 seasons. I am a profiler now at this point in my journey. So I know all about that, and you are indeed correct. They do say that a lot on that show. And so I feel like that's reality, and I am sticking to it. So yeah, I think it makes sense. Like, yeah, he's like looking at he's looking at the crime scene photos, and he's going back to the scene of the crime to investigate. But really, he's like, I did good job murdering. He was creepy. Like, and the way that he went from kind of like, sympathetic and charismatic to like suddenly just being like, no, there's right and there's wrong and there's no in between, and we're going to execute people for being Fort Ross prisoners. It was really really abrupt, but I think that he pulled off both sides of that in the episode. He was a scary dude.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I've obviously seen these episodes before, and I usually, when I did notes for this episode originally, I usually would watch them 2-3 times just to get everything down. And revisiting it, I was shocked that he shot that dude, the other cop.
Yes.
Just shot him mercilessly, just in front of I think it was in front of Supergirl and Alex. And I was like, oh gosh, that is very violent for a show that kind of became what it became. So they really took a lot of these things very seriously. It was very stakes were very high with these Fort Ross prisoners who were being hunted and executed, and it was actually pretty serious what was happening in this episode. There were some funny comedy bits, and we'll talk about Devil Wears Prada shenanigans that were going on at Catco. But a lot of the stuff with Master Jailer was pretty hardcore. So I was actually kind of shocked revisiting that, 7 years later.
Yeah, they that twist I didn't really see coming. And this episode. So when he shot his partner, I was like, oh snap. I was surprised as if I was seeing it for the first time. My memory is bad.
So what did you get out of his costume, his look? We kind of talked a little bit about his actions and his motivations. But what do you think about Master Jailer as a costumed character? I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
I think that they referred to him in the show as like RoboCop. And that's exactly kind of the vibe he was giving off. He kind of looked like robotic almost, with his face completely covered. It was like if the Guardian outfit was evil.
Oh yeah, it does look like the Guardian outfit a little
and
bit.
didn't have that like little eye thing where James could peer out of. I think sort of a kind of almost a knight like attire. Like he would be, you could kind of see this character like on a horse with like jousting. So it's sort of like if he was a robot knight. I think this is like the sort of costume. So is he a character from the comics? Not familiar.
He is a character from the comics, and I meant to have that up while I was looking at it. He's not very well known, but he is in the comics. I was going to see where he first popped up. I should have that somewhere. Let's see if I can pull it up. Sorry about that. I thought I had that information listed. Trying to see, because I also have all of these notes from season 1. So let me actually go Master Jailer DC Comics, because I found him in the I had him pulled up on the Arrowverse, but I was trying to remember.
I didn't even as I was watching it. It didn't even occur to me that he was probably like a comic book character until we started talking. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that costume was kind of specific.
Yeah, Master Jailer. I pulled it up and then I clicked out of it. Is a supervillain who fought Superman and served as a master of Checkmate and the Suicide Squad. Master Jailer was created by Martin Pascoe and Kurt Swan, who is a very famous Superman artist. He first appeared in Superman number 331 from 1979. So actually, I don't know if this will pop up very well if you're I'll link to this in the audio show notes so that people can see it. But I'm gonna see if I can pull up this picture on the live stream so that you can see it. So this is Master Jailer, and I guess one of his outfits from 1979. He has like a one piece with like a jail cell on it, like a prisoner.
That is quite an outfit.
Yeah.
Why didn't we get this outfit in the episode? why didn't you slap him in a little leotard with some jail bars on him? Look at those beautiful gladiator sandals. He is rocking it. He looks like he's going to win the swimsuit competition of Mr. Master Jailer.
Yeah, so a little bit different from what they went with. I guess this one, I'll have to look up where this comic is from, but that's a little more akin to how he looks in the, let's see if I can pull, it probably didn't. Oh no, that's, I don't know who this is.
Oh.
These are different characters from something else. Peacemaker, I
those
guess.
Are Peacemaker characters.
What is that doing in Master Jailer?
And then suddenly, something from Smallville comics.
Oh, okay, that's weird.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so Master Jailer does have a little bit of a different look on Supergirl than he did in the comics, but maybe they couldn't go with the original design.
I gotta be honest. I think he should have been running around in that little leotard. He could have still kept the complete helmet on, which would have been a weirder look, but I think it could have worked. I think he could have pulled it off, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. In the chat, Seam Gutier says, since Master Jailer comes from a planet that is known for its advanced technology, I was very impressed by the tech he used. He did have things that would come out of his, it looked like sort of sleeves, arms, where he could shoot out like chains to wrap people up. And then he also had lit up guillotines. I mean, he was guillotining people in this episode.
He was like the French Revolution. He was like off with their heads. He had really figured out like a new hip guillotine, which, you know, I guess snaps for him. You know, sometimes
Advancing technology.
Sometimes people tell you, listen, something is perfect. He says, no, nothing's ever perfect. I can improve the guillotine. And he did. It was a fire guillotine. What's more fun?
Yeah, he was doing a lot of things. The only thing that I couldn't get over, and I don't know that it was totally explained, how did his change wrap up Supergirl to where she couldn't
I don't know. That I was unclear on.
I understood the Red Sun prison at the end.
Yeah.
I did understand that. But for Supergirl to struggle with the chains, were they Kryptonian chains? Did they have a little kryptonite in them? That I was a little unclear about.
Yeah, I don't think that they really clarified too much what was going on with the chain situation. I was at first I was questioning like, well, how did he get the kryptonite to, or like the Krypton to like mirror the Krypton sun? But then when you find out that he was like a jailer in Fort Roz and he like, you know, presumably was involved with Krypton in some way, I was like, okay, now I can sort of hand wave that. But I didn't know how to hand wave the chains. They never really explained that.
Yeah, New Rachel asks, what would the chains have been made out of? The only thing I can sort of hand wave is that maybe they were Kryptonian in nature, because I would guess that his Master Jailer attire was Kryptonian, and so maybe the Kryptonian aspects of those things caused Kara some problems. So that's the only thing that I can think of. But yeah, so Master Jailer is a connection to Supergirl's past and her mother, Allura, in that Allura was an adjudicator who sent a lot of people to Fort Roz. One thing that I started thinking about when I was watching this episode again, Morgan, do you remember the Adventures of Supergirl comic and the character that Sterling Gates created, Facet?
Oh, of course I remember Facet. She was a true icon.
Yeah, she had a
she shined bright like a diamond.
She did shine bright like a diamond, and she was I think a Fort Roz
jailer
as
well,
or
right?
now I'm gonna have to look her up. I thought I had that. Let's see, Facet, DC Comics, Supergirl. I could probably look it up in my notes. Let's see if she's not even like coming up in a search. Let me do this.
I probably should have not searched a facade.
I wanted to get her actual description. Let's see.
Yeah, she was a former guard of Fort Roz and worked to take down Supergirl. That's not a lot of information, but okay.
So I just thought it was interesting that she looks a little bit like Master Jailer, not exactly, but
yeah,
but she appears in the Adventures of Supergirl comics that came out after season 1 of Supergirl was over. So I thought that was interesting that there was another Fort Roz guard there. And she also had a New Rachel helps me remember. I don't know if you'd forgotten this, Morgan, but that she also too, like Master Jailer, had kind of a relationship with Allura. And Facet was something akin to her lieutenant.
Interesting.
So that's cool. I wish maybe we could in the future we could see Facet, but I think the Master Jailer is sort of what Facet kind of was in Adventures of Supergirl, except she was a little brighter because she did have a.
Let's be honest, she was a little cooler.
Yeah, Facet was a little cooler.
She was made of diamonds.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about that. I mean, that wouldn't have been something that I would have been thinking about when the episode initially aired, because Adventures of Supergirl hadn't come out yet. But now that I have that context, it's just interesting that right after the show ended, there was another Fort Roz guard that we were introduced to. So I thought that was interesting. Any other thoughts about Master Jailer before we move on?
Yeah, I just he was not a great guy. You should not. He did improve the guillotine, and for that we must applaud him. But I feel like he had it was a little bit too much black and white thinking there. I don't think you should probably not kill everybody, Master Jailer. And also, I would have gone with his original costume now. Now that I know what he is, now that I know what we could have had.
It's pretty disappointing.
It's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, he was black and white in the fact that these people these aliens were, I mean, I guess are they people too, or are they just aliens? I don't know. They were aliens who had committed crimes and who were put in a prison in Fort Ross. So they were criminals, and they only got out and were free because Fort Ross crashed. And it sounded like every other guard in Fort Ross was kind of beaten to death and killed. So the criminals escaped. So these aliens were criminals. So he was right to want to make sure that they served their sentences. I think that's fair. But the way he went about it was too severe, where he was executing people and not enacting justice, I think.
Yeah, and I liked the way that they sort of compared that to what Supergirl was sort of going through in the episode, and sort of the place she found herself, where she was like really angry at Maxwell Lord and was just like, well, we'll just keep him, we'll keep him locked up forever, and that's fine. And James was like, I feel like you can't do that. Just lock somebody away without due process. And she's like, whatever, I'm Supergirl. But I think this sort of showed her the dark path that like going down further in that direction takes you to, where suddenly you are like he was, judge, jury, and executioner, where he was like, okay, well, you did a wrong thing, and there's no nuance in like the differences between the sentences of the people who he's just chopping their heads off. Like he's treating the little professor guy the same way as he's treating this guy who murdered a bunch of people. So
right.
I thought that was sort of an interesting way that those two stories mirrored each other, and they would do that a lot in season 1, where they would have the villain or some other story mirror what Supergirl was going through. And it was, even when it was about, Master Jailer, it was also kind of a Kara-centric story, because she was learning an important lesson. could you imagine?
That feels so foreign to me.
About Supergirl? Get out of here.
So you bring up a good point, and I would say that I understand the due process part of it, and I think that's definitely something that they should have been talking about, and that's how I initially read this episode back when it first aired. But after rewatching it, everybody was harshing on Kara because she wanted to keep Maxwell Lord in prison, and they were trying to say, "Oh, he needs to get out of prison. We need to let him go." And I was like, he experimented on 6 other girls and they died. Then he created Bizarro. Yeah. And you're just going to let him go?
So I had major issues with that, because in the early parts of the episode, Kara is presenting them to like, we're just going to keep him locked away and everyone will be safe. And James was like, well, you can't just do that. People have rights. They have human rights, and
sure,
you have to give them a fair trial and stuff like that.
Should maybe
process.
Have handed him over to the authorities.
Yeah, and then so at the end, she's like, "All right, Maxwell Lord, get out of here. Go about your day." And I was like, "Wait, Kara, there's a middle ground in there."
You can't just let him run free.
There's a middle ground between just locking somebody without due process and throwing away the key, and just letting them go off to party on their super train.
Because he loves trains.
He loves train. I was gonna say yacht, and I was like, not for this guy. Not for this guy. This guy's got a train. This guy's got the yacht equivalent of a train. And even when he's leaving, he kind of threatens Alex. He's like, why wouldn't I tell people that you guys kidnapped me and like held me against my will? And Alex goes, well, if you did that, we would let we have a lot of like criminal stuff that you've been doing that we'll give to the authorities. And I went, why wouldn't you just give that to the authorities?
Yes.
Like, what am I missing? Like, the point was that you can't hold somebody without due process, not that they should never see any repercussions for their actions. I was like, did everybody get the wrong message? That
I think they did.
To, like, let people go regardless? I was in my mind. I do feel like earlier in the episode, Kara makes the argument, rightly that like he's got an army of lawyers and he'll just be out in 5 minutes. But it feels like they didn't need to just give up and be like, well, we've got mountains of evidence against you, but we're just going to let you chill. You be good now. You be good. I was like, what is happening? If you have all this evidence, why not just like turn it over to the authorities and get get him arrested? I just didn't understand. I feel like that was where the episode sort of started to wobble for me, where I was like, wait a minute. You have evidence? What? If you have evidence, why were you holding him without due process, first of all? And if you have evidence, why are you saying we're not gonna turn it over? You and we're good now, right? Like, no, that doesn't make you a good person to have also, like a handshake deal with a crazy guy.
Also, why was the DEO holding him anyway? If he killed people, this may be something for the legal consultants to chime in on. We'll have to maybe get them involved in this and see what they think. But I couldn't get behind that part of it, because they should have, even if he had lawyers who could get him out on bail or something, they would have still had all of that evidence that they could get him send him to trial. And they probably would have gotten a conviction.
And you can argue that maybe his lawyers would have gotten him out of everything. Probably, maybe. He is very rich and they tend to get out of things. But they also made pains in this episode to point out that the power of the press is to be that fifth estate, to keep people accountable. So like he gets arrested and now suddenly the press is talking about, all the things he's accused of. Maybe he's not such a great guy. Maybe people are now investigating him. So maybe it's harder for him, even if he does get out, to do his next Bizarro based scheme. Like, it just seemed like the all or nothing thinking that they were critiquing earlier in the episode, they took through to the end of the episode and they were like, well, we can't keep him. That's wrong. So we're just going to let him go and hope for the best for him. Like, what? Why?
Yeah, even if he got off the charges, his name would be
might
tarnished.
Hurt his business, might hurt his reputation.
He wouldn't be able to make any more trains because people probably wouldn't.
No one wants
sponsor
to go,
that, or
no one wants to go on a murder train. Yeah. He'd be just sitting there on his train all by himself. No more parties on that train. At least you would hurt his feelings or something. Like, just because you're not always going to like win every battle doesn't mean try. It was very strange. I was with the episode until that last scene where she was like, well, we've got all this evidence, so you be good now. What? Why give the evidence to the authorities? What's wrong with you people?
Yeah, I guess maybe it was their way to keep his mouth shut about the DEO.
But so again, this ends up opening for me like a whole like season 1 is not the rest of the show can of worms, because like later on everybody knows the DEO, like everybody. Yeah. Like you just like go down to like the local bodega and they're like, that DEO, crazy people. Like, okay. In the season 1, it's like a huge secret. No one knows about the DEO. Like, it's a plot point earlier in the episode that James gives away that he's kind of involved in all of this, or that he knows more than he should.
And Lucy's like, you know about the DEO?
You know about the DEO?
What?
I never told you what it was called. And James should have been like, yeah, I mean, like, I heard about it from my local Starbucks barista who also knows what the DEO is. It's not a secret. But like the later versions of the show, like everybody knew what the DEO was. So I guess you could kind of hand wave it as like the DEO was secret and then eventually became less secret because they were just like, we're out here doing some great work. So
yeah, it was crazy to me rewatching that, how kind of they just let him go. He had experimented on all like 6 other girls other than Bizarro.
And one would think that they have like a decent amount of evidence about that.
Yeah, they had all kinds of evidence on him about that, I would imagine.
Why? It felt like definitely like an instance of like the show needs Maxwell Lord to be like out and about causing drama. And so the show can't like, nobody wants to watch the extended trial of Maxwell Lord. Believe us, we know. We experienced it later on. It isn't great. It's not great. I'm going to be honest. It's not. Lena had a great courtroom outfit, but the courtroom itself, not very well done. And, maybe season 1, they're like, listen, we don't do courtroom dramas. We don't know how that works. And by season 6, they were bold. They were like, we don't know how it works, but we don't care. The unfounded confidence that had happened by season 6 in the writing of those courtroom scenes. But yeah, that one kind of like, that one threw me for a loop. And I was like, I thought that this was a pretty strong episode. And then I got to that point and I went, oh no, now I'm thinking too hard. Right.
Yeah.
Like the joy of Supergirl is that it's a fun show. But the peril of Supergirl is that you don't want your audience thinking too hard about some of these logical inconsistencies where you go, wait a minute. And funny Miss Fiction Fanatic brings up in the chat, it bugged me that James had a problem with Maxwell Lord being held at the DEO, but no one had anything to say about Leslie Willis being held in the DEO with no trial.
Oh, yeah.
And exactly. Like pointing out that like it's not cool to hold people without trials is maybe not a thing that they want to do in regards to the DEO, because it seems like they're holding a whole bunch of people without trials. Like a lot of them are aliens, and you could argue about like what are their rights.
Leslie Willis wasn't an alien,
but she wasn't an alien. She just had powers,
right?
Like, so yeah, where does the line in the sand? I just feel like maybe they didn't want to approach this one.
And Leslie Willis was in DEO custody, I think, through season 3. I think eventually she was out and she was like doing her Roseanne thing at the diner.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But when they sort of team her up with in season 2, I think she was. Oh no, I take that back.
Mm-hmm.
I think Leslie Willis I can't remember. Somebody remind me in the chat about We Can Be Heroes, I think is the episode where there's
was that season 3?
I think that was season 2, because I think
Was
she came back in season 2 because that was the introduction of Mon-El. That was the season that she kept calling him like a cosplay or something.
I love her
because I think Livewire died in season 3 in that episode where they go to Fort Ross to find Rain. But there's something in season 2 where there's like another Livewire, but I think Livewire's in custody at the start of that episode. I think
Rachel says I don't think she was in DEO custody in season 2. So
she was in a jail of some kind because she talks to this woman who's like her psychotherapist or something, and she sort of talks about like, if you didn't have my feet in this water, I would like kill you right now or something. Like she's like threatening her. So yeah, Rachel says she must have been in regular jail. Yeah, I think she was in some kind of prison. So there must have been some kind of due process that happened.
There must have been some sort of process that they would take people through something. It just felt like a weird thing of like, maybe don't highlight this thing if you don't want to get into the nitty gritty of how like the DEO works and how they process people or don't process people. It's like how you never really want to think about how all their cells don't seem to have toilets in them. You don't want to think.
Just don't talk about it.
You don't want to think about it. You don't think it. You're just like, oh, she caught the bad guy. The bad guy's safely in a jail cell somewhere. Gonna assume that jail cell has a toilet. You don't want to think about the nitty gritty of it. I think that the problem was that this episode was like, let's get into the nitty gritty. It's like, but she didn't. And then you just let Maxwell Lord go with no repercussions.
He killed a bunch of women and experimented on them. Yeah, no big deal.
I do see a comment from Aaron's who said, it wasn't just the DEO. He also had Kara's identity, which at the time they wanted to protect. Although Kara, so let's be honest, not protecting her identity even in this very episode.
She will later not care about that at all because she'll out herself on national television. So it didn't seem to matter by the end of this show. Also, Miss Fiction Fanatic says, according to the show, it does count as murder if it is in pursuit of science. So I guess it doesn't count, and maybe that's what she means, Miss Fiction Fanatic. So if it's in pursuit of science, it doesn't count. It's fine. It's like Lena and her science murdering. I guess it's fine. Human experimentation is fine for them.
Listen, to be devil's advocate for Lena, as I often am. he did sign a waiver.
He did sign a waiver, a legal
He was like,
document.
if you kill me, I'm chill. And he signed on that line.
That's so funny.
So, it happens. I see CM Gutierrez said in season 2, Livewire was kidnapped from prison to use for her powers, I think, by Cadmus. So it does
maybe
seem
we
like she was
rewind to season 2 because I don't
Right?
remember some of it.
It says, and Aaron says Leslie Willis was in jail until somewhere mid season 2, and Supergirl let her go and found her in the diner in season 3. So it seems like she at least got to regular jail. I'm just saying that they could have turned that evidence with Maxwell Lord. Hey, he's experimenting on girls in comas and killing them, and he turned Bizarro. He's human experiments. That seems one. He did that whole train thing. That seems two. There's a couple of things that I feel like they could get him on. At least start bringing the heat down on him.
He also did those tests on Supergirl where things were like those drones are flying around and
Yeah,
he's testing her and doing all that stuff.
Putting other people in danger, like trying to destroy buildings to see how much stuff she could lift. But it just feels like they had some stuff on him that they might have wanted to pursue.
I think he could probably go to jail for a long time for that. We should also say that CM Gutierrez 74 says Master Jailer's chains are made of black star alloy. So I guess those are really strong then. I don't know what that means, but it must be strong stuff. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Cat Grant. So I was curious about what your thoughts were in relation to Master Jailer about Cat Grant's conversation with James, where she talks about her past as a gossip columnist and how she'd found out that this actress was being abused by her famous actor boyfriend, and she didn't say anything, and the actress ended up shot in the head. So I was just curious, what did you think about that with Cat Grant?
I thought it was interesting to kind of show, like, when we think of Cat Grant, we also often think about her like gossip column-y days. But I think it was interesting to show that even she in that gossip column period had like ethical dilemmas that she had to wrestle with, and things that she carries with her, and stories that she carries with her that she feels like she made mistakes on. I think up until now we've seen her be very confident about all of her decisions, but I thought that conversation that she had with James was really great, and like the way that he asks her, like, do you think that if you had done something differently there might have been a different outcome? And she's like, I think about that all the time. And I think
that's
that
hard.
that was tough. I mean, I feel like that would be a tough thing to kind of have to carry. And I like that they gave that moment weight. And I think it sort of, tied into that idea that they were sort of tying in that, like, what they do at Catco, whatever it is that is, also is important, and that they could, utilize the press to shine lights on different issues. And which is why it kind of felt weird that they didn't, talk about any idea of like, maybe we can use the power of the press to kind of, bring up some stories about Maxwell Lord, or like, even if they said at the end, like, okay, well, maybe we don't have enough hard evidence, like that would convict him in a court of law, but like we can start digging around using Catco. I guess Kara technically wasn't a reporter at this point, but it feels like it could very well have been like maybe a good James reporting story.
Well, James in this episode, I think, was referred to, Cat referred to him as a photojournalist, as if he was going out and he was going to do some photojournalism. And I was like, isn't he the art director? What are you talking about?
He is whatever the story needs him to be. On any particular episode, which was always the challenge with James. Like, you could never get like a good characterization of poor James going, because like 2 episodes later they'll need him to do something completely different, and then he'll be the art director again, or the interim Catco CEO, or something weird. Whereas like, I thought this character was a photojournalist, and like, oh yeah, he's such a great photojournalist. He doesn't like take pictures or like report.
No, I don't think he actually took a picture. But
he is great, believe us. But I thought it was nice for that, like, James Olsen photojournalist characterization that I had always hoped to get more of in the show. I thought that was like a good conversation that the two of them had about sort of the power of every kind of story, because I think, it was easy for her to think, well, they won a puff piece and I can't include this information in there. She like kind of lost with her boss, but probably thought, all right, puff pieces happen all the time. And then obviously this tragedy comes out later and she has to ask herself, like, if I had uncovered this, would things have gone different? So I thought that was really like was well done. And unfortunately, James doesn't get a lot of like really good meaty stuff with Kat, even though they are both like sort of senior in the company, and you think that they would
and they
interact.
Probably knew each other at the Daily Planet.
They
So they probably
knew
have a
each other
history
at the Daily Planet, but they sort of skirt around a lot. It's Kat is usually only in scenes with Kara. So I liked that Kat got a scene with James and they got to sort of talk about journalism. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked that insight into Kat's past and her as a character, and that probably informs how she runs her business and how she thinks about the news currently at Catco and its various forms and mediums. So I really like that scene with Kat and James. And speaking of Kat, in this episode, she, I guess, is still reeling from the fallout of Kara and her son. What is his face? Not
That's right.
Adam, but the other. No, it was Adam.
No, I think it was Adam.
Yeah. The other one was what was the little kid's name? Why am I blanking on all of these characters'
I
names?
have no idea what his name is. Her young son, whose name, who had a name.
Why
he
am
was
I
little?
blanking
He also loved trains.
It wasn't. It's gonna bother me that I cannot remember.
Carter.
That's
Carter.
right.
Rachel says this.
Oh
in
my
the chat.
gosh!
I can't take it. I can't.
Why did it take so long for me to get there? Yes. So Adam and Kara had a little thing, and then it didn't work out. And so I think Kat. I don't know if this was your interpretation, Morgan. A Kat hiring another assistant to compete with Kara seems like a way to deal with the fallout from her son's failed relationship. Is that how you interpreted that?
It is, although it is hard to fault Kat because yes, this is probably personally motivated. However, Kara is a very bad employee, like just sort of on a different level in how bad she is. And like there are a couple moments in the episode where Siobhan says something like one of us has to do this job, and I was like and I thought to myself, I know I'm on Kara's side. I know I'm supposed to be. But she is making some strong points about the fact that Kara is not doing this job.
But I think this thing with Siobhan, this competition, really motivated her to want to do a good job and want to come to work.
But she still left in the middle of the
day. She did. Yeah, it was really funny to me because she's having this fight with Siobhan. Kara is over IM, like some sort of IM chat at the office, and Siobhan is messaging her about about Kara's relationship with James, and Kara's getting so agitated about it. And I think Alex calls her. It was either Alex or John, I can't remember, and is like, "Hey, we need you at the DEO," and she's like, I'm dealing with a real serious issue right here. So you can just deal with it. So like Kara was willing to like put aside the alien DEO stuff because she needed to deal with Siobhan and the gossiping that was going on at Catco.
I know.
And that
so
actually
funny.
made me laugh.
I thought all the Siobhan stuff was really funny. I really like that actress, Italia Ricci. I can't remember. There was I had watched her previously in some, I think it was like a Freeform show.
Oh yeah, she was in some show where like she had cancer or something.
Yeah, it was called like Chasing Life or something like that.
Yes, I watched that. Yeah, it was. It was okay.
It was something to have on, but I really liked her.
It was something to have on.
It's so funny because a lot of the actresses or actors that were in that show like have gone on to do other things that I've also liked them in. So like her best friend is in a lot of things I like, and like one
Anybody
of her
on Yellow Jackets?
Not yet, but I wish. I hope soon. Maybe let's get Italia Ricci on Yellow Jackets as well. But I thought that she really had that like sort of snotty assistant, like Devil Wears Prada, Emily Blunt, second assistant, really down. down. I thought she was like definitely like she was coming for Kara, and Kara was unprepared because she's used to wandering in at noon and wandering out at 2, and then coming by for the end of the day to just like have a coffee with Cat Grant and then leave again. So she was just really not prepared for competition of any kind. And I thought it was funny to see, somebody who like was dedicated to this job and was like, listen, I've got a whole career plan and it ends with me having monogrammed towels in Target.
She also said she wanted to be the new Cat Grant.
Yeah.
Which I thought, given the ending of this show, I thought was really fitting because Kara becomes the new Cat Grant.
So it turns out she should have just been ducking out in the middle of the day.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
Is the phrase. I thought Kat was especially personal in this situation because she comes into the office and she's been calling Kara all kinds of names, different names, not calling her by her preferred pronunciation, and she knows how to pronounce Siobhan right away. And I think Kara notices that. So it did seem like Kat was taking this very personally.
That was a moment that made me really laugh hard because we used to have a Siobhan in like my high school class, and I was always shocked by how it's spelled. It's not spelled how you would think.
Nope, there's a B. There's a B in there.
There's a B. There's an H. You're like, okay. Meanwhile, Kara is not a hard name.
No.
It's 4 letters, and she consistently calls her like 10 wrong names. So when she immediately gets Siobhan's name right, and Kara goes, "What? Like you got that?" I laughed so hard. I was like, that is like a great moment of comedy, like based off of the characters.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done in the way they set up Siobhan and the situation around that. So we'll see Siobhan in coming episodes, but she's there for a reason. And what I think is really cool, and we'll talk about Silver Banshee later, and we probably should do like a character spotlight on Silver Banshee at some point. Now that we've gone through Rewind, we'll have to talk about that. But Silver Banshee is in, I believe, the Sterling Gates run. She's also in the New 52 with Supergirl. I can't remember if she's in the Peter David run or not, but she has a history with Supergirl in the comics. And so to see her pop up, you could debate on whether or not the Silver Banshee portion of the character looks good in terms of the makeup and the hair and everything.
Yes,
that you could
you
debate.
Sure can.
You could debate that, but to know that the character showed up on the series was pretty cool. Back in season 1, and it's still pretty cool now looking back on it to know that the history of Supergirl with Silver Banshee was honored in the first season of the show. So I was really excited about that. Anything else about Siobhan or Catco before moving on?
Just love her. Just love her chaotic energy.
Well, we'll see more about that in later episodes. I guess the only thing we really haven't talked about is Kara's still grieving Aunt Astra and the fallout of Alex murdering her to save Jean's life. And there's still some stuff hanging in the air. Kara's still mad at Jean and still believes that he has killed Astra. And then they have a funeral for Astra. So Morgan, what did you think about all that Kryptonian family stuff going on in this episode?
I thought it was cool to get to know more about Kryptonian culture. So we see a Kryptonian funeral, and we find out that the Kryptonians have a 2-week mourning period that Non is going to actually do and
honor.
Honor. He's going to honor it. He's got to get Astra, take her through the dark. So Kara's got kind of a 2-week vacation period where she can just really stretch her wings and enjoy
before that blood feud starts.
Before that blood feud starts back up, she's like, "Thank God, I'm exhausted." But I thought that the funeral was really cool. I wondered where they got like the pod that they funeraled her away in. Like, what in Kryptonian lore do they just put people in pods and then shoot them out into space?
That's a good question. In Crisis, when Supergirl dies in the comic book version of Crisis, Superman wraps her up in her cape and just kind of takes her to space. So there's no pod in that situation.
But so like Into Space is kind of their funeral.
In some cases, I'd have to dig back into both Superman and Supergirl to find various funerals. Like very famously, when Superman dies, he is put in a casket under his big Superman statue in the comics. So they do bury him in that way. But for Supergirl, there is precedence for being let go in space and saying goodbye to her that way. I did find it funny though that Non was like, I'm going to take these 2 weeks. I'm going to say goodbye to Astra. And then after it's over, I'm going to kill you. That was like the best villain moment I thought for Non so far, was like, I'm going to take care of this. And then the next funeral is going to be yours.
Yeah, that was a great line. The next funeral is going to be yours. I was like, oh, snap. Because honestly, to me, at this point in the season, Non's been kind of a non-presence. I don't like, oh yeah, puns. I don't have any particular feelings one way or the other. It's like, oh, Non's coming after us. I'm like, yawn. When you compare it to Astra, who had so much panache, you know?
Yeah, she really did.
And now, oh no, Non's coming after us? Yeah, all right. But in this episode, you know, it was like he was bringing the heat. I was like, okay, if this Non had been here the whole time, I'd be more threatened by you. But yeah, I thought that was like a really great line where he was like, you know, I'm gonna mourn, I'm gonna cry, and then I'm coming and I'm going to kill you. But also, thank you for coming to the funeral. Very lovely. We're going to have
Thank you for reciting the prayer of the dead for us.
Exactly. The lunch is at the little Italian place around the corner. We'll see you there. We did get you meatball parm. I hope that's okay. Again, I'm going to murder you. Straight up murder you.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed that.
I see Rachel says, in the Legion animated series, when Superman died temporarily, he was put in a casket and shot straight on into the sun, which seems, honestly, it seems aggressive.
Wouldn't that help heal him, though?
Maybe it did.
If he went into the sun?
Did they think about shooting Astra into the sun? Or they could have turned this thing around.
I'm just sad that none of them grabbed some grass. I think that would have.
She could have saved herself if only she knew about the grass.
What does she say? Is it touch the grass?
I think it's take the grass.
Take the grass. That's what it is. Take the grass. I'm forgetting everything in this episode of Supergirl Radio. But yeah, so it was kind of cool to see the funeral, the Kryptonian funeral. I thought maybe they would have. I had sort of misremembered it, thinking that Kara spoke like the Kryptonian language, but she did not hear. She recited the prayer of the dead in English. So
yeah,
I was kind of surprised by that. I can't remember which episode where they first, because there is some Kryptonian that is spoken at some point in the series, and I can't remember when that starts. So it was neat to see a Kryptonian funeral and see them say goodbye to Astra one final time. So
R.I.P. Astra.
Yeah, very, very sad. So Kara's still bummed about that. She talks to her AI mother about everything, and AI Alora is like, I cannot tell you anything about Myriad. I'm actually like freaking out because you're asking me about Myriad. So they've already set up in this episode what is to come with the Project Myriad and all of that. So there is some danger surrounding that, and why the Alora AI is very apprehensive to talk about it. So there is some good bit of mystery, I think, that's happening in this episode. So I guess, Morgan, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we end our discussion?
I don't know. Did we cover everything? Oh, I think I do want to talk about the James and Lucy conversation.
Oh, yes. There is that. Yes.
That got heated, and it got weird to me because she was like, oh, so you're close to Supergirl, like you were close to Superman. I was like, what kind of implication is that? How close was he to Superman?
I think her problem was that James went out and did things with Superman on all those adventures, and just didn't have time for Lucy.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
There was definitely like an implication of like, do you like Supergirl? But it came
There
right,
is that, yeah.
it came right after like, oh, close like you were with Superman. And I was like, does he just have a thing for like Kryptonians? James, you're bad.
My thing about the James Lucy stuff in this is that it put Kara in a really weird situation, because James at the end is like, if I want to take my relationship with Lucy to the next level, I got to tell her you're Supergirl. So I got to have your permission on this. And it's like, why should your relationship hang on the balance and have Kara have to, like, forcing Kara to make that decision? I thought that was a little unfair to her.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because like it is her secret identity, so he can't just like go out and tell Lucy like, "Hey, it's actually our good pal Kara that's Supergirl." I don't know why that would make her feel better about anything. Oh,
Well,
Kara, the
that will
pretty
that will
girl
come
that you
that will come
work
back
with
in
every day.
another episode. So I think we'll get there with the resolution of this situation. But yeah, I just don't like the situation it puts Kara in.
It also made me laugh because I feel like Kara's response, like we're left without Kara saying anything, but I feel like her response is going to be like, "Oh, I don't know, it's probably you probably shouldn't tell her my identity." But meanwhile, she drops that professor off, and he's like, "Thanks, Supergirl," and she's like, "Kara, look me up." And then they exchange, like they friend each other on Facebook, and I laughed so hard at it's Kara. I was like, so he can like probably find you now. He
Yeah.
knows you live here and your name's Kara. So, but I laughed because like later on it becomes such a big deal about anybody like learning her identity. Like for years, poor Lena was like, "Do you have a secret?" And Kara's like, "What are secrets?" Meanwhile, early in season 1, she's just kind of swanning into rooms, going like, "I'm Alex's sister. It's me, Supergirl," or like saving people, and they're like, "Thanks, Supergirl. I'm comfortable just calling you that." And she's like, "Actually, my name's Kara." I'm like, "Kara, you need to calm down."
I guess she assumes that he's Kryptonian. He won't give her away her secret, because remember, at this point, aliens are very rare. Nobody
Yes.
talks about the aliens, so maybe
Nobody
he
knows
just
about, like, people
yeah.
barely know about them. It's all very new.
So maybe she wanted him to know that, like, hey, I'm an alien too. I'm from Krypton. I understand you. I see you. What did they say in Avatar? Like, I see you. Um, so I think there's that to it. But yeah, she's real loosey goosey about her secret identity in a lot of cases.
Oh, I see that there's a comment in the chat from CM Gutierrez before we started recording that said, question, about a third into the episode, Hank mentions that they could be dealing with an interstellar bounty hunter. And then Alex says, "You don't think?" Do we know who they were talking about?
Yes, that is the character of Lobo, and Silhouetted Animator
Mm.
answered that in the chat as well. So Lobo is, I think, mostly within the Superman mythology. He is a famous, as the show mentioned, he is an interstellar bounty hunter. So he goes around trying to catch the criminals for monies. So he's a real fun character. He wears kind of rock and roll clothing, and rides like a motorcycle, and has crazy hair, and so he's a pretty fun character. If you watch Krypton, I think season 2 from sci-fi, was that the
Sci-fi.
channel?
Yeah.
Sci-fi. Sci-fi. I couldn't remember, because isn't there like a website, Sci-Fi Wire?
Oh yeah, I think
So
that
I always get that confused. I'm like, wait, what's the channel, the network named? But Krypton season 2, I believe, had a I think the first live action portrayal of Lobo, and he was pretty authentic. I thought, like, he looked and acted just like Lobo. So if you want to see Lobo, yeah, and Rachel confirms it's Krypton season 2. So if you want to see Lobo in the flesh, he's also in the Superman the animated series quite a bit. Lobo will show up there. So you can find Lobo in other places outside of the comics, but Krypton season 2 is a pretty good, I think, pretty faithful portrayal of Lobo. So And Rachel mentions you can probably find it on CW Seed. So is it on HBO Max? Now I kind of want to know.
I don't know. I feel like it should be. I feel like they should have taken it to the max,
You know who is also on Krypton is our favorite baker in the DC universe, Mr. Stosnir is
Really?
also on Krypton. I believe I didn't finish season 2 of Krypton, but I know it's Krypton is not on
It is
HBO
not.
Max.
Yeah, I just looked as well.
Shocker. But I think he plays Doomsday.
Oh.
So I haven't actually finished season 2 of Krypton, but great show. It also has its own different interpretation of the Phantom Zone. So I highly recommend Krypton for the stuff. I just got behind on season 2 and then never went back to it. So I'll have to find it on the CWC and watch those last couple episodes.
I've done that with so many different shows. I totally understand.
Yeah, so it's a quality program, I think. It does a good job with Kryptonian culture and Superman mythology and things like that. So very cool stuff. Well, overall thoughts. Truth, justice, and the American way with the Oxford comma. What did you think about it?
I liked this episode. I thought it was pretty well done. I like seeing a kind of a harder, more jaded version of Supergirl when she's like going through things. I think it shows that she's not perfect. She makes mistakes, and she's really mourning Astra, and she's really mad at John. And I thought that the Maxwell Lord stuff, though later in the episode, doesn't make sense. But I think that like her learning the lesson that just because she's mad doesn't mean that she can do whatever she wants, and she has to sort of abide by the rules as well. By seeing this jailer, redefine the guillotine. I thought that this was a good one. I thought that there was some really good cat stuff in here, and the workplace stuff was really fun. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. As I feel like I'm a broken record on most of these season 1 episodes, but this one I thought was also very enjoyable.
Yeah, this one aside from the Maxwell Lord stuff not making any sense, I think this episode really took some chances in terms of the serious tone. I really liked that it had some stakes. Even the stuff when Supergirl is locked up, it's like, oh, how's she gonna get out of this one? And Alex comes in, here comes the sun. That's good stuff. So I really liked the way that they took this story seriously and they took the tone seriously, and some really good fights. Lexi Alexander, who directed the episode, is famous for her stunt work and her ability to choreograph fights. So a lot of the stuff here, when we talked to her, Teresa and I interviewed her for Supergirl Radio, and she talked about how when she was brought on to do this episode and invited to direct this episode of Supergirl, they wanted to sort of take Supergirl's fighting level and her fighting abilities to the next level. So she tried new ways for Supergirl to be able to fight. So I think we see a little bit in that in those couple of skirmishes with Master Jailer. So I really liked this episode. A lot of good character stuff, some good comedy bits rolled in there with the serious tone of the Master Jailer storyline. So lots of good stuff. So yeah, I think most of season 1, pretty solid stuff.
I don't have a lot of complaints. I gotta be honest.
I mean, some of the complaints are pretty, valid, I think, for the things that we do complain about. But I think on the whole, I mean, it's a really enjoyable, watchable season of television so far. So we'll see if that trend continues through the rest of season 1. Well, I think, Morgan, maybe we should get to some feedback.
Okay. Well, we have an email from Daryl who wrote in with some thoughts about truth, justice, Oxford comma, and the American way. Writing, this episode has one of the best Danvers sisters couch scenes, and I love it. Why do people like Kat Grant so much? She's not a good boss if she wants to pit someone against Kara like that. I feel sorry for Kara having to work for someone like Kat. She's not being a good mentor this episode. Interesting perspective. So, I mean, yeah, Kat is probably not the easiest person to work for. I would have to agree with that. I love the character though. So
I don't know. I think she's partially doing what she's doing to Kara to make Kara better.
Yeah, and
because she's giving her competition.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, to be honest, with Kara's work performance, most other people would have fired her by now. So she's getting a lot more leeway, I think, than a lot of people would have given her. So in some ways, Kat's a great boss.
Yeah, she would have been fired a long time ago.
You just want to leave in the middle of the day and maybe not come back at all? Sure. I'm going to hire someone mean to actually do your work. So Daryl says, I love the reference to Lobo. And if you want to see the main man in action, watch season 2 of Krypton, currently on the CW app.
Yeah.
I have to guess that Kara does actually work for the DEO, since she said she'll do a request with HR if she needs time off. Because of James, Wynn knows that Clark is Superman and Lucy knows about the DEO. Maybe James should get the lecture on being unable to keep secrets instead of Kara.
True. Good point.
Also,
how wouldn't Lucy find out about the DEO through her father anyway?
I don't understand how she didn't know about the DEO. She's like working in the military industrial complex. Like, is the DEO supposed to be? The thing is, I feel like what we're supposed to take from that is like the DEO is this huge, huge secret, and yet so many people know about it that it does seem implausible that that Lucy wouldn't know.
Or do you think Lucy was mad because James knew and wasn't saying? Is that more the issue, that like she knew that the DEO existed, but James knew and he wasn't saying anything to her? Like he was keeping that a secret.
She was like, I know, but you know, and you didn't know that I know. So I'm mad that you know, and you didn't, and you knew that I didn't know, but I actually do know. like that Friends scene when they find out Monica and Chandler together. It's like, you don't know that I know that you know. I think that you're probably right about that. And then Daryl finishes up by saying, I have to say that Supergirl Master Jailer fight was pretty good. 18 years for a first-time offender seems quite extreme. That's so funny that he brought that up. I had meant to talk about it on the podcast and then completely forgot. But yeah, I think we're finding out that Krypton's laws are quite strict, because he was a first-time offender who didn't have a criminal record, and he didn't even successfully deal any drugs, and he still got 18 years. It's like, Allura, maybe we want to look at those penalties. Maybe that's step 1 in your Krypton justice reform.
Well, we are looking at it through our
that is true.
You and I, from our human American culture and legal system here. So maybe Krypton, maybe it was a real big problem there. Like it was just people running amok doing drug deals and stuff. Maybe it was like this huge problem, and maybe Kryptonians lived for much longer. And so maybe 18 years.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
It's not that big of a deal.
Maybe 18 years was kind of like a short little blip for a Kryptonian. Yeah. So it was like kind of a slap on the. That's a good point. I also thought when he was telling the story, I was like, oh, so he went full Breaking Bad. And then he was like, and I didn't even manage to do one drug deal. And I was like, so not exactly full Walter White then. Much worse at it. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about it. Yeah, because we don't know how long Kryptonians live, but presumably they might live much longer than us.
I mean, I think we're just looking at it from
we're looking at it from our human perspective, and maybe we're judging Allura too harshly based on human laws, because I thought the same thing. I was like, Allura, girl.
I would like to believe that Allura was fair.
I think judgments. So. I like your perspective more. I'm going to go with it. And then we have a couple of comments in the chat. Aaron says, I think Kyler Lee in the 100th episode party said that one of her favorite lines was this "Here Comes the Sun" line, which is
it's good. It comes at the right moment too.
And then a final question from Sim Gutierrez, who asks, at this point, do you think Kat still suspects that Kara is Supergirl? Was getting Siobhan to free up Kara to do superhero duties on the down low?
I 100% think that's what
I thought the same thing actually as I was watching the episode, and she made a couple cracks about how like Kara never shows up or does anything, and I was like, oh, I think she still knows.
Yeah, I've thought she knows since like episode 3, but I think that is definitely a read that you could go with.
I feel like
if you wanted to.
I feel like it's a very Cat Grant thing to try to help you out by hiring you the meanest assistant possible. Like, she's like, I'm going to help you. I know that you really need help doing your work and your Supergirl work, but that doesn't mean it should be easy for you. Like, your assistant who's going to help you out is going to be mean and competitive, just like me. Like,
and ambitious.
And ambitious. I feel like Kat was like, I see a little of myself in her, only she seems a little bit more evil. And honestly, that's what you get for breaking up with my son.
Real petty stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
But I think it's going to help Kara grow. It's going to make her a better employee, better person, and maybe a better Supergirl. I think it's really going to benefit her in the long run.
She's going to grow.
Yeah, I think so. I think having to compete with somebody who's going to become a villain later, I think is going to be great.
I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait to see that weird makeup again.
You might not have to wait too long. All right. So I guess that's taking us to maybe needing to make some snap judgments. In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary. We have a real, just to prep people for it, but all these snap judgments, well, there's 2, they're kind of Siobhan heavy. So I just wanted to put that out there. And if people have snap judgments they'd like us to make in the chat, feel free to drop them in there.
So the first snap judgment is better villain, Master Jailer or Siobhan's, was it Smythe?
Smythe, yes.
Smythe.
See, this is tough because both of them gave Kara a lot of trouble in the episode. I mean, I guess Master Jailer. He did kill a bunch of people and imprison Supergirl. So I would have to say Master Jailer, but Siobhan was really showing some villain tendencies, I think.
Siobhan is going to hurt your feelings. She's going to cut you deep to the bone.
She's going to gossip about your crush.
She's going to gossip about your office crush and get you in trouble with your boss. And that is nefarious. However, Master Jailer did innovate on the guillotine. And for that, for seeing something already very functionally appropriate and saying, I can do it better. I have to give it to the Master Jailer. Don't always be complacent. Don't always be happy with the way
always
things
looking
are.
to improve. Get better.
Always looking to improve. Exactly. We can learn from Master Jailer and his thought process of what if it was also on fire?
No one had thought about it before.
No one had. He was an innovator. Second snap judgment. Who would you prefer as your assistant? Siobhan, assistant number 1, or Kara, assistant number 2?
I think I would pick Siobhan.
Oh, she was
getting it done. She found Kat's glasses when she was looking for them, and she knew her lunch order, her coffee order. Didn't she do the coffee, ground the coffee by hand or something? She's pretty good. She had it together.
She went out to the Isles of Costa Rica to specifically get the coffee. Yeah, I really want to say Kara because I think that she's a more fun hang. But Siobhan, she's ambitious. She's going to be really nice to you if you're the boss, even though she probably hates you and would kill you if she had the chance. But she's going to always get your coffee order right. And then also you're going to tell her, hey, could you do this thing? And you're going to turn around and she's going to be doing it. And if you ask Kara, hey, could you do this thing? She'll say yes. And then you're going to turn around and she's going to be gone. And then you're doing it. So I feel like Siobhan is just kind of a better assistant.
Or I guess we could look at it this way. Siobhan did have ambitious goals and dreams. So she's probably not going to stay your assistant for long term.
No, that's true. That's true. She's going to get in and get out.
Turnover. Yeah.
So if you get sick of her, she's on her way up. She's climbing the corporate ladder.
That's true. If you wanted to get rid of her, you probably wouldn't have to wait too long. So
and then I think we do have a version of a snap judgment in the chat, which is Master Jailer's comic outfit, Boardroom or Ballroom, which I'm going to tweak a little bit.
Okay.
The snap judgment is his Supergirl TV show outfit or his comic outfit.
Okay, so let's do some Boardroom or
and
Ballroom.
Now, Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom?
Okay, should we do both? Should we do the Supergirl TV series version and then
Yes.
or should we say which one we prefer and compare both of them?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. Maybe we should critique the outfits and then we should pick a winner.
Okay. I don't know if I still have the do you still have that image of
Oh,
the
it's burnt in, baby. So his comic book outfit, it's a leotard. There are stripes on it, so he looks like, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna just say it. I know I shouldn't. He looks like a sexy hamburglar. And he is bringing it. He's got gladiator shoes on. You remember that time in our lives when gladiator sandals came back real hard?
Oh,
and
yeah.
everybody looked like Russell Crowe in that movie. He's like that all the time. So I mean, listen, it's beautiful. What he has going on is incredible. Chef's kiss all over chef's kisses. Now, the outfit in the show, not as exciting. Not as
Yeah.
exciting. He looks kind of like a combo of, like I mentioned earlier, like RoboCop and like a knight. So like he would joust and then maybe clean up the city streets of like a post-apocalyptic like hellscape. But he's not bringing me fashion. He's not bringing me drama, right? Like everything's so gray. Everything's so gray. Like add a splash of color to that. Even Guardian, when we got Kelly Olsen Guardian, she was like, "Bring me that gold. Bring me that drama.
Everything is gold.
Everything will be gold." And I was like, "Yes, girl. Yes, you take your crown. You put it on your head. It's a helmet now." For him, he's more of a subdued look. He's taking care of business. He doesn't want anyone to see his face. It's functional, but is it fashion? I don't know.
Well, we should add that he could dematerialize his helmet to reveal his face if he wanted to. And he had those things, the chains would shoot out.
Yes, both very cool. He has a lot of gadgets. He's got a lot of gizmos.
Yes.
But does he have the drama of comic book Master Jailer? I would argue no. I would argue that sexy hamburglar much better.
So is the snap judgment?
So
do we
now
like the show version or the comic version? Is that
I think which is the superior version of the outfit, the comic or the show? We've broken down both, I think. The show version, he's going to get on a horse and he's going to joust for your hand in marriage.
That actually sounds great.
It's pretty dashing. The comic book version, he's going to win the swimsuit contest, though. He's gonna take that home. The other contestants, are they wearing gladiator shoes? I don't think they are.
He's gonna get that scholarship.
He's gonna
that
get
pageant.
that scholarship. He's gonna learn the little queen wave where you just
He's gonna
turn
solve
your
world
hand.
peace.
He is gonna solve world peace. He has a favorite day. I'm sure I feel like it's like the miscongeniality version of Master Jailer's outfit. I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna already pick mine. You know what it is. It's the comic book version.
I would have been disappointed if it wasn't. I think I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna go the show. I like the night look. I think he's scary. He does have a little bit of color. It's just, blacks and grays mostly, but he's got, some mix. And I like the gizmos and the gadgets. And so I think that makes him a good villain. I don't think that the comic book version is very threatening.
No, it's not. I'm gonna be honest. It's not. It's not. If I saw that guy coming at me, he's like, time for justice, I'd be like, to brunch? Are we going to the beach? Or I think the comic book version is too friendly. You're going to want to hang out with that guy. You're not going to want to hang out with this one.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was an unexpected great boardroom or ballroom. And this has been
Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom.
I wish I had prepared overlays to compare them. That really should have been something I did. Maybe I'll have to do that in post.
And in post.
Get some stuff in post to compare the two looks visually, because I think you really have to see them side by
side to really understand.
Well, I suppose that we should get to some Supergirl Radio. and some DC TV plugs. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Now see here, Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast Network, so if you want to listen to other shows, we've got The Flash Podcast, Legends of Tomorrow Podcast, The Lituation Room, DC on HBO Max Podcast, Stargirl Podcast, Superman and Lois Radio, Green Lantern Podcast, The Sandman Podcast, DC TV After Dark, and Justice League Dark Podcast.
So I actually forgot to do an overlay for the TeePublic store because I was in a rush this week. So we don't have anything specific we would like to tease for the TeePublic store.
But you know what? Since we talked about truth, justice, and the American way this week, we have just some designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store we'd like to suggest.
Just all of them.
Do you like Supergirl? She's in there. Do you like Alex Danvers? Gonna assume. Do you like Martian Manhunter? Definitely represent
it. We've got Lena Luthor
Lena
stuff.
Luthor. We
got
all know
Maxwell
you guys love her. Boardroom or Ballroom. They're all in there. They're all in there. Just go to the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store. A hard thing to say.
Correct, though.
And check it out. We also have some Supergirl Radio specific designs. We've got like a game
night shirts.
I've got my game night shirt. I'm ready for the next game night.
We need to schedule a game night. We need to figure out what game we're playing, and then we need to schedule a game night. You mentioned that someone was a solid hang. I can't remember in this episode who you were talking about. I don't know if it was Siobhan or something, but I've been going through the last 100 episodes to prepare for the big 400th episode. Well, in the last game night, in the March Madness game night that we had, a lot of the arguments for who would win in a fight
was they were a solid hang.
Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, it all comes down to me like, do I want to play a board game with this person? Not what are their powers or who would they win in a fight? It's like, yeah, but I don't know that they're gonna like help me win Scrabble.
So working on the 400th episode. So there's some game night stuff in there. So we got a lot of stuff in the TeePublic store. We'll have to work on some new designs. We still we workshop some Witch for a Summer exclamation point stuff for Lena Luthor, but we haven't really settled on a choice for that. So maybe we'll have to get back to Lena Luthor Witch for a Summer designs. But we've got some good stuff in the TeePublic store, and it's not just Supergirl stuff in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store. There's Flash, Arrow, Black Lightning, Batwoman stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. So if you like the Arrowverse, we've tried to curate a store just for you. We would also like to thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Ann, Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Leslie, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Danny, Tara, and Majuba. So thank you all for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon account. We have currently 4 monthly levels that you can check out if you would like at patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. So we really appreciate everybody's support. As far as me, you can find me at several places if you want to keep up with me. I'm on Instagram at The Derby Kid. I also have a YouTube channel that you can find at youtube.com/DuckMilkProd, where I will be live streaming on Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern and reading through Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice reviews written by the top critics of Rotten Tomatoes. I know everybody's like, haven't you finished that project? And I'll be like, I'm close. But I've been doing it for, I don't know how long. Has it been 2 years? I'm not quite sure, but it's been quite a long time. But I'm still going through those, still learning a lot. And so if you want to come hang out and talk about art criticism and film, you can join me on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/duckmilkprod.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. And you can also find me as a host on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, where we've got some fun stuff coming up, including a discussion about the truly unhinged horror movie Megan with a 3 as the E. And how is it maybe the first Gen Z horror classic? We're going to discuss that. We're also going to talk about the Teen Wolf movie from the perspective of people who have somebody who's finished the show, somebody who's watched most of the show, and somebody who's not watched any of the show. So that's going to be a fun and confusing time for all of us.
Has Amy not watched the show?
Amy has not watched
Isn't she Team Werewolf?
She is Team Werewolf. And Kat and I have watched the show.
And both Team Mermaid.
Both Team Mermaid. So does it make sense? I don't know. It's for you to decide. And then as a reminder, Mike and I were recently on the latest episode of Gay Gals Watch, where we talked about trashy TV, including Love is Blind, and then what I don't consider trashy TV, but more just reality TV, which is The Great British Bake Off, which went just wild this season with their weird theme weeks, and whether or not it got heated on the podcast about their definition of a s'more. And we thought they were wrong. Mike thought they were fine. So it was contentious. So if you want to listen to that, head over to Gay Gals Watch. It's the latest episode. We do apologize that it is 2 hours. It didn't need to be. It shouldn't have been. But it is.
There was a lot to say about Love is Blind season 3.
So much.
I think Morgan probably now regrets like encouraging me to telling me about it and watching it. And then I had a lot of thoughts about Zenib. Just so many thoughts.
A lot
I don't
going
think
on
people
in that
give her a
season.
hard enough time.
It's probably
she was also at fault in that relationship.
It's probably fair. I was probably too focused on how annoyed I was at Cole and didn't save enough of my ire for her as well.
Ugh.
Nobody on that season was
none of them should have gotten married.
I think nobody should have gotten married. But,
that show really technically should not exist. I don't think it's helpful
God
in any way.
Love it. God love it. Anybody who wants to go on that show, they should just get free therapy instead, probably, and like a Tinder account, maybe.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna watch every season that they put out. Have you watched any of the foreign spinoffs?
No, and I haven't seen Love is Blind season 2 either.
Okay, so you got to watch season 2, but also I highly recommend Love is Blind Japan.
Oh my gosh,
we Mike and I went through the whole thing. We got very invested. They spend a lot longer in the pods in the Japanese version, so you really get to see the drama of how many different people they're talking to, and you're like, who are they gonna pick? It's also a mess, though.
I would expect nothing less out of it. Oh my gosh, what a disaster season 3. I've heard season 2 is worse though. Isn't there one season where like all of them get divorced?
I don't want to give anything away.
Okay, no spoilers. That's the thing about Love is Blind, is that it's not really like there is some suspense when they get up to the altar.
Yeah, you're just like, what are they gonna do?
That's
why, and I feel like Netflix is genius for this. You do kind of have to watch it when it drops, because like if you're kind of online, sometimes you'll see like stories pop up about like, oh, these people are still together, or these people broke up, or whatever, and then you're like, crap, now I know for the season. But if you're watching it when it first drops, before they can say anything about their personal lives on Instagram, you're like, what is gonna happen? Is she gonna run out? Is she gonna fall down a ditch or something in her wedding dress?
I wish
that happened in the first season. One of the girls like ran out in
season 1.
I think somebody said no to her. I don't think she said no. I think they said no, and she runs out and she's so mad, and then she like falls down.
I don't
her wedding
remember
dress.
that.
Brutal.
Do you remember? You don't remember who it was?
It was the blonde girl.
I just remember Jessica.
Oh my God, Jessica!
She was just the worst.
What the season 1 villains were so good.
Oh my gosh. Love is Blind. You can watch it on Netflix if you're interested. But just be prepared. It's a disaster.
It's not great, but I love it so much.
I almost regret watching that first season because now I'm like, well, I gotta.
Now you're locked in.
Now I gotta keep watching this to see how this. They're always like, is the experiment working? Is love really blind? I'm like, no,
apparently
not.
This
is a terrible experiment. This is not a good use of your time. You should stop doing this.
I hope they never stop doing it. Rebecca, as long as there are Instagram influencers, there will always be Love is Blind.
Oh my gosh, what a crazy show. Okay, well, I guess that's gonna do it for Love is Blind Radio.
Sure.
But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon, and thanks for joining us for Supergirl Radio Rewind.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!